Illegally appointed Jack Smith is back in the news, possibly still trying to pursue Trump. And Jamie Raskin, Mike Davis is saying the Supreme Court could step in and rescue Trump once again. That'd be good news too. So glad you guys watched. Thanks for subscribing. Leave a comment, give us a thumbs up, tell your friends to find us right here on Doug TenNapel. Let's watch Jamie Raskin for a minute.
But last night I was most worried about the Supreme Court's prospective imminent abdication of its very clear duty to disqualify Donald Trump from the ballot under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment.
That's Jamie Raskin saying the Supreme Court should have disqualified Trump from the ballot. Again, I don't get why they think they're protecting democracy. That is just absurd. And of course, every mainstream judge everywhere went against that thinking. Remember, these are like 9-0 decisions. These are like whole courts go against them. This is the craziest radical anti-democracy thinking there is, coming from Jamie Raskin. Hey, by the way, you guys, thanks for donating. There's always a link to PayPal below. I know some of you can't get PayPal to work with your system, but it really helps our channel out, helps keep the lights on, helps me do 2 to 3 videos a day, because now I'm paying my editor again to help me do some work. So that goes to you. Now, let's get to Mike Davis's tweets here on Twitter. Oh, and don't forget, I'm also on Rumble at Doug in Exile, and I'm on, most important, X and Twitter at Doug in Exile, at Doug in Exile. That's where you'll find me, and that's probably where the future is. Here's Mike Davis. Here's the problem for Biden-Harris special counsel Jack Smith and the Obama judge Tanya Chutkan. They must hold an evidentiary hearing to determine what Jack Smith alleges against Trump in his personal versus presidential capacity. Remember, Trump is not covered in personal capacity. He is covered in his presidential capacity, has immunity. And if Jack Smith brought an indictment using evidence subject to presidential immunity, the entire case must get tossed and start over. That's good news for Trump and bad news for Jack Smith, which we like all bad news for Jack Smith. Chutkan's order on presidential immunity is immediately appealable to the DC Circuit. DC Circuit, and it's no good too, by the way. The Supreme Court will almost certainly have to step in again if Chutkan and DC Circuit play their partisan game again. So he's predicting the Supreme Court, Clarence Thomas, Alito, will get dragged into this once again by 2 partisan DC judges. That's the DC Circuit, dragging along an 80-year-old Bush 41 judge. That's the 3rd member of that 3-judge panel, who should have retired 4 years ago. The case won't get resolved before the election, he predicts. On day 1, Trump's acting attorney general must fire Jack Smith and his team, dismissing the case, and open a criminal investigation on this broad criminal conspiracy to wage illegal lawfare and election interference against Trump, his top aides, his attorneys, and his supporters. He's saying a day 1 lawsuit back, fire Jack Smith, go after his opponents. This is Mike Davis, by the way. He clerked for Gorsuch, Supreme Court Justice Gorsuch, just so you know. The hunters must become the hunted. Lawyer up Biden-Harris conspirators in DC, New York, Atlanta, Fulton, Georgia, and Phoenix. Quote, he's going to repeat it back to them, what they've said: nobody is above the law. Here's crazy Raskin again.
And what that might mean if their decision says that it's really up to Congress on January 5th or January 6th, 2025, to disqualify him at the counting of the Electoral College votes.
He's trying to disqualify Trump in 2025 at the disqualifying of the Electoral County votes, which they claimed Mike Pence was some kind of a criminal, or Trump was a criminal for trying to get Mike Pence to do the same. And they are going to do it to Trump if he wins. Okay. It's going to happen. Here's the great Julie Kelly over on Twitter also. Clip of Raskin threatening to use force to fight, quote, Trump mobs on January 6, 2025 to remove Trump under insurrection clause is 100% real. Here's another clip from the same event where Raskin denounced Supreme Court for pending Colorado insurrection decision and blames court for likely civil war. This is an old clip, but here we are back to Jamie Raskin.
Which really could lead to something akin to civil war if that's what the suggestion is, which is what I think I heard when I went to the oral argument, that they themselves were unwilling to rule whether or not the Colorado Supreme Court was correct in finding that he had engaged in insurrection on January 6, 2021. So
Jamie's wrong here. That's not why they didn't take it, because they feared civil war. You ridiculous. They're trying to imply that the right are a bunch of nuts going to start a civil war, even though we don't have the 25-person body count from the BLM riots and $2 billion in damage and, fires set to everything. But Raskin here is wrong. They didn't decide on it because they didn't want to dignify it with a Supreme Court ruling. So they always rule partially. They don't want to get involved in elections. That's not what a Supreme Court is for. But if they remove Trump from the ballot, the Supreme Court will get involved. Clarence Thomas, Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, they are going to help Trump. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. You're what this channel's about. Again, I want to make sure that as we're here together, and I thank the Lord that we get to have a few more videos together. I have to say thank you. I'm Doug in Exile.